Hello, this is ADA Digest for July 2023, and I gathered news and about ADA and related technologies for you. We will start with a review of blog post and other publications. First one is was written by Vadim Godenko about VSS library and tell us about cursors, iterators, and markers. This is the second article in the series of articles. The first one was a general overview about new string library, and this one tell us why we need so new concepts like iterator and cursor. The idea is that we don't know the internal representation used by the library, because the idea of VSS is that the internal representation could vary, and if one application work better with UTF-8, you can use UTF-8 internal representation, while when another application retrieve data in UTF-32, then representation could change. In this approach, we don't have ability to access character directly by index like other libraries do, and so we need another way to access the characters and handle position in the text. So cursor is just a position that replace character index. It limited type, while iterator is a way to go through the pieces of text like individual characters or RFM clusters, words or lines. Maybe another iterators will appear in the future. Here's an example how to use this objects. You can get iterator of some string from another cursor, from another iterator, and so on. This example how to iterate in reverse order using character RFM clusters. Marker on its side is an object to hold position somewhere in container or another object type, and let you keep this information while you process the text, and then you can use these markers to start the iterator or to get some, for instance, slice of string and so on. It's very short article, but if you plan to use VSS, it's better to read it to understand the ideas. Another blog post is GNAT Pro Roadmap, when Jose shares with us the roadmap of GNAT Pro release, and there is a link to the document when there is roadmap for next 23 release, and it's nice and interesting. For instance, The release will include GNAT for LLVM for native platform on Linux and Windows on Intel CPU. There will be support for Windows 11. Also, there is a new extension of Ada was implemented, and the article have some examples of this extension. It's very interesting to see, and especially because it contains references to RFC on GitHub, when you can share your experience with this extensions and propose changes or report some issues with this. There will be a GNAT for CUDA. With this tool, you can write kernels for GPU and have high-performance application running on GPU without sacrificing security, because you can write it in Ada and use Spark, for instance, to prove correctness. There will be Jorvik support for new runtime library, and so on. It's very interesting to see how these tools are developed. I put a link in the description so you can read and find some interesting idea what is going on. Besides GNAT Core blog post, there were some other interesting publications, like Edward Fish share with us with his description of generic. It's short article of 8 pages when the author starts with plain non-generic example of bubble sort and explain how to make it generic, how to we can introduce formal parameters, what form of formal parameters could be, and if you need some more information about generic, it's a good tutorial to start writing generic units. Another post was by Jim Rogers with names Threat of Confusion. In this post, he compares the example of a multi-thread program with Ada analog of the program and compares the approach to multi-thread programming in these two languages. There are another articles in his blog post. For instance, in June there was an article about beta rise. It's interesting to read, I think. Considering release, okay. Speaking about releases, we released a new extension for VS Code, and this extension has several new improvements, like on-type formatting support. Initially, on-type formatting do only identification indent, text indenting, but if you want full formatting, you can disable it or enable it in the settings with this sentence And also there is basic support of GPR language. Take a look on this screenshot when we have a GPR file on the right, and on the left we have outline view with important part of project file. And if there is some syntax error, you will have the problems, the problem window panel. Some new libraries were released last month, including a library for money handling and SQLite 3 binding. I found interesting also the announcement of other binding for wolfSSL library. This is not a third-party wrapper, but it includes in wolfSSL itself, and it contains Ada code proved with Spark, some part of this, so your application could be proved for correctness at least on interfacing with wolfSSL library. They use GNAT Community Edition Spark to prove the specification, and the binding is released under GPL license. Another interesting funding last month is HiRTOS. This is real-time operation system written in Spark and Ada. Currently, the prototype works on ARM CPU, and you could run it on simulator. Besides code, the repository contains some documentation, including PDF of design ideas, where the author explains his motivation for writing yet another real-time operation system, and share the overview of design decisions, and most of this document is that specification for internal implementation. From my point of view, it looks interesting, and I invite you to see. Some news about Archlinux and Ada, where RTOS tried to introduce some packages in Archlinux, but eventually it landed in a dedicated Archlinux repository. It contains a rather long list of packages, including Ada language server or Alir package manager. So if you use Archlinux, you can try and maybe join the development of this repository by providing new packages there. And at the end, I would like to share with you this a thread on forum where someone looking Ada programmers to join a project in America. They are going to rewrite 8 million line of code from Ada to another language because they want well-established and popular languages with TDMOS ecosystem support and large pool of software professionals. Would be interesting to see where they go in several years and how this project is going. That's all for my overview of news. Please subscribe and post link to this video or your social networks. See you next time.